Yes.
Thank you so much for this wonderful introduction. I'm truly humbled by that honor. And with the kind permission of everyone, uh, including Dr. Nayak, I don't see him here though. I hope he will join us soon. But we will begin with today's session. Please allow me to share my screen.
Ma'am, it's already
Wishing
allowed.
Yes, yes. Wishing everyone a very happy Independence Day tomorrow. It is mainly the teachers of social science fraternity who understand the most important value of the Independence Day celebration. So, particularly to my most dear fraternity who has joined us today, truly a very happy Independence Day. Okay, I will have shared my screen at all points in time. In case if you think you wish to chat with me, I'm sure Shama ma'am will help us through the chat. And
Yeah,
in
definitely.
case of question answers, ma'am will guide us through towards the end of the session. But please be interactive so the learning is greater. Now, as we all know today, our topic is competency-based item writing, and in particular in social science. If you visit the CBSE website, most of you would have seen that in the competency-based educational resources, there is a lot of information and material given for English and Hindi, math, and science. But social science, the board has had faith in us as educators of this field to develop our own competencies and our own competency-based item writing. So what do we mean by competencies? Shama ma'am very clearly brought out a categoric meaning, but just to look at it one more time, a competency is defined in terms of what a person is required to do or perform, under what conditions is it to be done, and how well is it to be done. So we have the performance, the conditions, and the standards. For NCERT, it is taken more broadly as how well a candidate can demonstrate learning outcomes related to a set of content defined by the board. The consequence is that the NCERT curriculum has to be matched to the relevant CBSE curriculum and the content to define what can be assessed. So, though we do have these minor challenges, but again, social science teachers, I would say, are very, very lucky in this field. The learning outcomes are specified in the curriculum for grade 10 and 9. So, we just have to then match them to the competencies that we intend to assess. Then there are 5 core competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision making. So I think a lot of people are still entering the waiting room.
Yes, ma'am. We have to always check and then make them and
Yes, I
allow.
do remember last time there were people who were making unknown and unwarranted remarks.
Yes, that's why.
So item writing, we know, is an art and a science. So what makes item writing an art and a science? It is an art because it needs a lot of practice to master. There are general guidelines, but there is no fixed set of rules or formulae to guarantee a good item. So it's an art. It is only when we practice it will we master it. And it's a science because it stimulates our thinking process too. It inspires learning, helps self-reflection, and informs teaching. There are a set of sound principles and techniques which we need to follow. So let us look at the objectives of an assessment and role of questions. So there is a very simple thing. Why do we need to assess? We are assessing to diagnose the level of proficiency in learning, identify the gaps in learning, and identify appropriate approaches to remediate. So when you assess, you automatically diagnose the learning gap, you work towards its remediation and reassess. This makes it a proper cycle. Assessment is for learning and no longer of learning. The role of questions is to meet these key objectives of assessment. So when we are making our questions, we need to focus on this particular objective of assessing. Now, all of us have known the Bloom's taxonomy, the taxonomy framed by Benjamin Bloom, which was later on revised in around 2000 by Prothol and Anderson. So the lower order questions start with remember, understand, apply, and when you move up the ladder, you go to analyze, evaluate, and create. Now, the lower order of these questions are teacher-led. So when you say remember, you are asking simple questions. Who, what, when, where. When you want to test the understanding, you're just asking the why and the how. Now, the same who, what, when, where, why, and how are then taken to a middle order student-centered learning where you are applying it. How is it used? How does it work? Then we move up one step where again, it's a student-centered learning from now on, where you start with analysis. Why is it used? Why does it work? What is the cause of the war? What is the reason behind Gandhiji withdrawing the non-cooperation movement? Or you give a passage and say, what do you infer from this passage? What does this passage suggest? Then come the evaluating kind of question. What is the impact of the Bretton Woods twins on the economy of the world? Or what is the result of the war or climate change? What is the effect? What if all the oil resources were exhausted one day? What would happen if probably the universe ended? What could happen if all of us together would work towards conservation of resources? And finally, we come to the topmost level, the highest order of the cognitive domain, which is create. What can you? What could you produce? What can you design? How would you develop? What can you innovate? How can you innovate? What can you invent? There is so much. So creation is normally something based on a child's learning, but entirely moving into a new domain. A child bases his or her invention or creation on the learning and applies it to create something new. So you can look at the screen. Remember is the lower order. So you move from the lower order to the higher order. Normally the Bloom's taxonomy is given in an apex pyramid with create on top. But this time I have kept the pyramid inverted with a purpose that the most important or the highest order is creation. And that's where we need to focus on. Now, before we start framing items, we need to ask ourselves two main questions. Is this topic worth evaluating? And does it test higher cognitive function or just recall? The minute you are able to answer these two questions, most of your questions will automatically narrow down to the correct ones. Always remember to ask yourself these two questions before you start. Now, when we say understanding questioning skills, one of the goals of teaching is not just to match the learning outcomes and student to the learning process, but we need to utilize, like I told you, the objective of assessment. We need to utilize questions effectively so that the students are also able to identify the learning gap and make questions a very valuable learning tool. So good questions are purposeful, clear, brief, natural, thought-provoking, limited in scope, adapted to the level of the class. And we have to keep that in mind. Now, when we talk about questioning skills, the kind of questions we ask should give us a feedback of the student learning and student progress. At the same time, the student should also get a feedback of where they stand. A SWOT of the students should be on the spur of a moment, the minute to ask a question. And, you know, these utility people who come home and take on all these utilities, like a mechanic in his toolbox, he will have so many tools. Similarly, for a teacher's toolbox, the right kind of questions that we ask, and only a teacher knows which is the best question for the moment, for the best class. Presenting questions, most people normally, even in an MCQ, tend to ask simple recall questions. Easiest example, all of us seem to have, you know, or you ask anyone to frame a question immediately, in which of the following year was the Constitution adopted by India? 1947, 48, 49, 50. Any answer? Somebody who wishes to give me an answer, I'll keep the chat box open on the side so we can see it. In which of the following years was the Constitution adopted? So I can also see people answering number of options. And the correct answer is 1950, which very few people have answered. People are answering every other option. So you see this? It was simple recall. We became a republic when we adopted the Constitution, right? 26 January 1950. But 26 January, Zankna ma'am, was not in the option. That's where we need to play safe. Students should think. Comprehension questions require the students to demonstrate understanding. So here, I could change the same thing and ask, when does India celebrate the Constitution Day? Any idea? 26 November, 26 Jan, 26th Feb, 26 December. And unanimously, the entire fraternity writes 26 November. Some of us need to brush up on our knowledge of political science. Then we have, so but here you needed to comprehend, why do we celebrate Constitution Day on 26 November? We the people of India on this day of 26 November 1949 do hereby adopt, enact and give to ourselves the Constitution. Therefore, it was celebrated on 26 November. And just last year, we celebrated it on a very, very grand scale. Then we have analytical questions, which need the students to apply their comprehension to a new setting, and evaluation questions, which ask the students for their opinion. So, of course, during the session today, we will come to all kinds of questions. Now, look at these. In the Bloom's taxonomy, I've shown you teacher-led and student-led questions. So here you can see these are your, there's a cartoon in front of you. The teacher says, I taught Stripe how to whistle. And the friend says, but I didn't hear him whistling. And the teacher says, I taught him how to whistle. I didn't say he learned it. So is this teacher-led or student-led? Is this teacher-led or student-led? Absolutely, Preeta Nair, I think that was. And yes, it is a teacher-led question because the teacher has taught, but the student has not learned. There is no demonstration of learning. So it is teacher-led. The learning objective itself is teacher-led, so the assessment is also teacher-led. What should have been the learning objective in this case? Would you want to put it in the chat box, everyone? So somebody says practical training should have been given, child can whistle, student will be able to whistle. Absolutely, Ritika. That was Ritika, I think, Sharma. Yes, at the end of today's class, the student or Stripe will demonstrate how to whistle. Then it would have made a perfect student-led class, right? So I'm going to shut the chat box for a while now and proceed. Now, item and item writing. What are they? The tasks or questions that are used to construct tests and examinations are used or referred to as items. And the range of techniques that we use in preparing these items are collectively referred to as item writing. So the task, the command is an item, and the techniques we use, the entire range is called item writing. What are the steps to efficient item writing? Focus on the content to be assessed and decide what knowledge or proficiency or cognitive process do you want your student to demonstrate. So like I told you earlier, what do I want to test and what do I want my student to know? What should the student know? What should the student be able to do? There are simple questions and they make a big difference in the life of our students. Items we normally associate with MCQ. So I will deal with MCQ. Features of MCQ. We ask MCQs or multiple choice items as we call them. They are ask a question or establish the situation for a response. They allow valid, reliable, and economic measurement of a wide range of content in a relatively short testing time. It provides 4 response choices or options from which the correct answer is selected. Now here you need to understand, keeping in mind that 4 options are normally mandatory. Why do we say 4 options are normally mandatory? It is the mathematical formula of probability. If you have 4 very close options, the student's probability of getting the answer correct is very less. That student, only if he or she has studied, will get the answer correct, not otherwise. Components, an MCQ or a multiple choice item will have a stem, which is the initial part of the question, in which the item is defined, the task is defined. What we would call the question statement. Then we have options, which are an entire set of labeled response choices present under the stem. They are the 4 alternatives that we give. The key is the correct response and the distractors are the incorrect responses. Now the stem, look at this as an example. The Constitution of India was implemented in the year. And I have given you all of these options, 47, 48, 50, and 52. These are your options. Now look at this. The options are very close to each other. All 4 are years. All 4 years are very, very significant in the social science fraternity. 3 of them are distractors because they are nowhere near the correct answer. And the correct answer is the key. Guidelines for developing MCQs, particularly the STEM. It should be clearly worded and written in direct question form or as an incomplete statement with a dash as the end if you're giving a fill in the blank in particular. It should normally contain only one concept and not multiple. Include as much of the item as possible and should be free of irrelevant material. Use a negatively stated stem only when significant learning outcomes require it. And when you are using a negatively worded stem, you should stress on the negative word. Okay. So if you are saying which of these is not the correct response, so you will write not in bold and in caps lock, because the student should know that you have used the negative word. General rules: keep the stem and the distractor short. There should be no ambiguity. And when we give picture questions, if the students can answer the question without the image, then don't give the image. Give an image only when required. Types of questions. Now we always think, MCQs mein kya hai? MCQs is simple. Multiple choice questions or items have a question form and they have incomplete statement form. The possible types of MCQ are simple MCQ, 4 options, complex MCQs, and assertion and reasoning. When we say complex MCQs, we normally say double MCQs. You give a picture or a data and infer. Or you mix and match a lot of things and then option may you give a second option. A, B, C, D are your first 4 options and then you will give 1, 2, 3, 4 and say, is the answer option A and B, only A and C, those kind. And assertion and reasoning, we all know. Now look at this. I've given you an example here of an image. Which word defines the image the most? Let me see the chat and let me see what we have in the chat. So Preeta ma'am says it's arid. Which word defines this picture the most? Okay, somebody has come to the correct word. And the correct word is oasis. A lot of people are answering and the correct answer is oasis. Here again, we need to guide our students to always write the alphabet with the correct answer. Normally, otherwise, what do? They will write A and then they will write OSS. That will make the answer incorrect. We have to train them to write C, OSS. Now I have a video to show you, so I'll quickly move to the video. Just let me share the video with you. I have kept it open and ready, so there is no waste of your time. And this is going to guide you to make the best MCQs.
How to make a killer multiple choice test question by Academy of Learning Career College. This video will show you how to make one of the most common test question types, the multiple choice question. First, let's break down the parts of a multiple choice question. Check out this example. This is called the stem. It's the initial statement or question that requires a response. These are called alternatives. They are the different response options to the stem. One of the alternatives is the correct answer. It's the right response to the stem. While the rest are called distractors. They are incorrect responses to the stem and serve to throw off the unprepared test taker. Great, you may be wondering, but how do I make a killer multiple choice question? Here are 10 tips to use as guidelines. Number 1. Be sure to present a clear question or problem in the stem of your test item. You want to make certain that a test taker who knows the subject matter will be able to answer correctly. Number 2. Don't introduce new language. For example, if the course refers to horses as horses, but then the test question refers to stallions and fillies, which are types of horses, the test taker will be unfairly confused. Number 3. Whenever possible, avoid writing negative stated stems. For example, which of the following does not mean a male horse can be rephrased as which of the following means a female horse, and will generally result in test responses that better reflect what has been learned. Number 4. If you have many multiple choice questions in your test, vary the position of the correct answer. The easiest way to do this is to shuffle around the alternatives for each question after you've created the entire test. Number 5. Keep the alternatives a consistent length and format within the same test item. Generally, we have a tendency to make the correct answer longer, more detailed, and more complex than the other alternatives. Test takers pick up on this and tend to select those longer alternatives as a result. Number 6. All the alternatives in a test item should be plausible and mutually exclusive. Carefully chosen, credible-seeming alternatives will help you confirm that your learners have grasped the finer points of what you've taught. Number 7. Limit your use of the alternatives, none of the above, and all of the above. These are lazy alternatives and generally frustrate test takers needlessly. Number 8. Consider presenting a chart, a reading excerpt, or a short case, and writing a series of questions in which test takers have to interpret what you've presented in order to select the correct answers. These questions are more difficult to create and, unsurprisingly, can be the best kinds of multiple choice questions for assessing learners. Number 9. Proofread. When you are done creating your entire test, run through it, or better yet, have a trusted colleague take your test. It is easy to make small errors when we create a test, and it is also easy for those errors to totally undermine test questions. So, try to catch them before you accidentally frustrate your test takers. And lastly, number 10. Throughout your test creation process, remember that your goal is to find out how well your learners have achieved the objectives of the course. Your goal is not necessarily to write challenging questions or a hard test. A well-written test question is difficult for an unprepared test taker, and simple for a well-prepared test taker. And that's how you write a killer multiple choice test question.
Thank you for joining me on this particular video. I hope a lot of concepts on making good MCQs or good multiple choice questions were absolutely clear to one and all by this video. And so now we shall progress with what we were doing previously. And here we are. So now, like I told you in the beginning, if you remember when we did the blooms, I told you there are these essential words, the who, what, when, where, how, and why. So we call them the 5 Ws. So do not assume that only non-inquiry based questions will begin with a W. And do not also assume that inquiry based questions will begin with a which, why, and how. Examples of inquiry-based questions will be: what defines success? Who is a true leader? When is work fun? Now look, think of these answers. And examples of non-inquiry-based questions: simple recall. Why did World War I start? Why are letters, which letters are vowels? Or how did Mary return to her country? Simple recall questions. No comprehension involved. So an essential inquiry-based question stimulates the thought process, provokes learning beyond the textbook, provokes further questioning, research in students, invites further probing about concepts, and generates curiosity about the world around us. So I have one more video which I want you to see, and then based on that video, we will try and create a couple of questions which are competency based. That will give us a good hands-on experience at competency based questions. So I'll just share my screen quickly and you can then view the video. All right.
Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water, but all the water had dried up. The world was now much hotter. Their throats were so dry, they couldn't find a drop to drink, and one day, neither will I.
मछली जल की थी रानी, जीवन उसका था पानी। पानी में प्लास्टिक फेंकते रहे हम, मछली को तरपते हुए बस देखते रहे हम। धीरे धीरे मर गई मछलियाँ सारी, रह गए बस फेंकी हुई चीजें हमारी।
मम्मीज एंड डैडीज, आपके बचपन की फेवरेट पोएम्स बदल जाएंगी, क्योंकि हमारा बचपन क्लाइमेट चेंज की वजह से बदल रहा है। क्लाइमेट चेंज से हम कैसे लड़ सकते हैं, जानिए jagore.com पर।
Okay, so this was basically a very nice ad used by Tata for Jagore, but it is a very essential ad when it comes to social sciences. This covers so many topics of social sciences like water resources. It covers sustainable development, which is, and education is also SDG 4. Then we also have topics like natural vegetation and wildlife. We have climate change. So all our topics are being covered in this one ad. And in the chat box, I'd love to quickly have you frame some questions. I would like you to frame some questions quickly in the chat box based on a matrix of questions. No, I need you to frame proper questions now. I'll be showing you a matrix. See, this is a question matrix. I have shown you an ad which we used as a passage or in a picture, okay? We normally have inference questions or we have picture questions. This time I played a video for you. Based on the video, you will take one word from the vertical line and one word from the horizontal line and frame a question. So if I were to frame a very simple question, I would say, where did this event occur? And the answer would probably be yes. So I can say, Sandhya ma'am writing, what are the causes of water pollution? All right. Another question would have been, who will be responsible for the depletion of water resources? What can we do to reduce pollution? Absolutely, Rujita ma'am. Who can change this scenario? List out the effects of water scarcity. What can be done to conserve water resources? How will we save the planet? Will the earth be as it was? How will the childhood of the next generation be different from ours today? Why is there a change in the original form of the poem? Very good, GK. Who is responsible for this scenario? Wonderful. How can we save our planet? Are we doing something to save the planet? Which steps need to be taken to conserve? How might? Wonderful. Beautiful. I love the way you all are coming up with questions. This is only showing that you are growing in questions. Look at this other example. Now that ad example is over. Okay, who is responsible for affecting the aquatic ecosystem? Okay, now that is over. Look at this second example. There's a bear, and the question is, what are the main causes of animal endangerment? Now, keeping this bear and the causes of animal endangerment in view, frame questions using the previous matrix. You remember this matrix? Frame questions using that. What measures will help us to control this situation of animal endangerment? Beautiful. What has deforestation done to animals? Okay, why is democracy a better form of government, Sujata? Probably what is democracy, or what is the government doing to conserve the bear? How do the bears suffer, Vishwas? Okay. How do we protect the habitat? Which endangered animals should we worry about? What steps must one take to reduce the danger of the animal? So I have some of these here. Which is a more beneficial environment for the endangered animals, a zoo or a national park, and why? What might be some rules that you would make to preserve the endangered animals in our country? What might be alternate ways by which humans can protect the endangered animals? Sorry for that. Some people are now deciding to enter the meeting. How do you feel about the promotion of tourism, and what risk do zoos and national parks pose? So I believe now you are getting the hang of framing those two thought-provoking competency-based questions. Can we have reserved forests only for the bears? Why not? So the Bloom's taxonomy on one side, from the lower order to the middle order to the higher order learning, and the 6 thinking hats of Edward de Bono on the other side. Okay, Arpan Thakur has a nice one. How can we generate self-awareness? Okay, so let's move to Edward de Bono's 6 thinking hats. And we have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. When framing these questions also, we can wear one of the 6 hats iski topi, uske sir. You can mix and match the hats. You can mix and match. You can wear multiple hats and frame questions using Bloom's taxonomy. So this is just a parody, and I thought it would make sense in sharing it with you. Then there are three types of questions that we talk about: factual questions, conceptual questions, and debatable questions. Factual questions, we all know, are absolutely knowledge-driven. Conceptual questions explore bigger ideas, concepts, facts. They go beyond the textbook, compare, contrast kinds. And then we have the debatable questions, which promote discussion, encourage synthesis, and evaluation. So if we talk of World War I, we'd be saying what caused World War I to break out? What caused World War I to end? Absolutely factual. You can rote learn the text and write. Concept: how can political issues influence the starting of a war? How might a revolution be different from a war? Compare and contrast World War I with the French Revolution. Or how are wars in the future likely to be more dangerous than the wars of the past? But the moment we move to debatable questions, we start asking, do we have to fight wars, or can we resolve issues amicably? The factors that influence one war are the same that influence all wars. Justify your answer. So the student can now openly write viewpoints in the second kind of a question when it is justified. It could be a true, I agree, or I disagree, and the supporting statements. Now we'll come to the final segment of this training today, which is question review. So we look at why ask questions. First, we did what are competency-based items, how to frame competency-based items with essential inquiry-based thinking skills and questioning skills. And now we are looking at why ask questions. Okay. So when we look at these questions, we are saying distinguish mechanical learning from learning and understanding. Identify common misconceptions and errors. Influence how and what students study. Can we stimulate thinking and develop higher level thinking skills, strategies, and habits? Provide feedback on what students are learning and what they have not learned, what do they still need to learn. Cover that gap. Now look at this. I leave it open to you if you'd like to make a question on this passage. These initiatives in Champaran, Ahmedabad, Kheda marked Gandhiji as our nationalist, marked out Gandhiji as a nationalist with deep sympathy for the poor. At the same time, these were localized struggles. In 1919, colonial rulers delivered into Gandhiji's lap an issue from which he could construct a much wider movement. So I'll keep the chat box open. You can quickly frame at least one question in the chat.
Ma'am, there is no question in the chat.
Yeah, but I was hoping somebody would at least frame one question on this passage. So which is the movement? Okay, in the chat only you can tell me which is the movement which we are talking about after Champaran, Ahmedabad, and Kheda. Okay, how did Gandhiji incorporate Satyagraha? Sandhya Vittalapuram. Great. But if you notice, the passage tells you colonial rulers delivered into Gandhiji's lap an issue. CDM? Was it CDM Sandhya or was it NCM? See the issue, we have to talk about the issue. After these movements, we have the Khilafat, Jallianwala Bagh, and those issues, right? So we have to then focus on NCM. This is testing our competencies. Which incident is being spoken in this passage? And you give 4 options: NCM, CDM, Quit India, those kinds. Yes. So all of you know that we are talking about the NCM, but when it comes to framing a question, you have to make a simple question. This also tests the competencies of the students. The students should know the years. See, we are not asking for the dates, but the students should know in which year did these events happen at Champaran, Kheda, and Ahmedabad to be able to understand what came next. The order, the chronology, that needs to be kept in mind. Look at this. Good questions are aligned to the testing objective. The question tests the student's ability to recall about the members of the Constituent Assembly. So look at this. Is it a good question or a bad question? Which of the following question statements regarding the Constituent Assembly members is true? Which of the following statements regarding the Constituent Assembly members is true? Just write G or B if it's a good question or a bad question. Okay, a lot of so many people have started writing G. It's a good question. Look at the length of the options also, and more or less the options are competitive enough. Why does Sandhya say it is a bad question? You can write in the chat. As the options are too long. Options can be long, Sandhya, but all the 4 options have to be very close to each other to keep the student confused. Only a good student who has studied should be able to get the correct answer. Look at the next question. Yes, Jaydevi, I agree with you. Look at the next question. Initially, the Constituent Assembly members comprised of 389. Within 6 months, the number of members decreased to 300. Why did this happen? Again, write a G or a B. Is it a good question or a bad question? Yes, the question is good. Only one of the 4 alternatives is a slightly longer one, which may lead the students to get distracted. Now we need to check for alignment with the testing objective. Check if the process or the cognitive skill being used is correct. Check if the concept or topic is being tested by the question and is not a very trivial or not to be tested. It should be the learning objective. And check if the distractors trap misconceptions or common errors. Yes, Jayadevi, it is true. Students will be reading thoroughly and there will be no less chance for error. Now look at example 2 over here. Look at example 2. There are 2 statements given, assertion and reasoning. 18th century rebels frequently sought leadership from those in position of authority. Rebel leadership wanted to restore pre-British world. The testing objection question tests if the students are understanding the aim which the rebels had. Is it good or bad? Almas says it's good. And the whole lot of people behind Almas also feel it's a good question. Now look at example 3. The most well-known king of Vijayanagar, Krishnadev Rai, wrote a Telugu treatise on the politics called Amukta Malyada. The writings written by or about the ancient Indian emperors are listed below. Which of these primarily features themes that are comparable to those in Amukta Malyada? And is this also a good or a bad question? And the line goes on to make it a good question. Absolutely. But now if you notice, the students are forced to think, and the level of difficulty is also moving up. From applying, we have moved to analyze and evaluate. Now look at example 6 here. There is a doha of Kabir. काल करे सो आज कर, आज करे सो अब, पल में प्रलय होएगी, बहुरी करोगे कब. From the above lines, one can conclude that Kabir's ideas were primarily about dash. So what is our conclusion now? Is it a good question or a bad question? Pooja, why is it a bad question? Kabir ke dohe, they study in Hindi in a lower grade, grade 8 or 9. And the others do feel it's good. Preeti says it's good and inspired. But Renuka Sejwal says time. I still have about 6 minutes, Renuka. Children can relate, it is open-ended. Gayatri feels it is a bit confusing. But well, this is in grade 12 history. So if the student has read the Bhakti Sufi movement in grade 12, the student will immediately pick the correct answer. Now look at this. This is grade 10 economics. Study the data given below, sourced from the World Bank. Despite having higher total income than Germany, Japan has a lower per capita income. What is the reason for this? Could you put in the correct answer for me in the chat? See, the number of competencies this kind of a question is testing. It is an inference-based question, double MCQ, because there is data given and you have to interpret the data. It is testing a whole lot of competencies, whether the child knows what is GDP per capita. All of this is in the first chapter of economics grade 10. Apparently, the countries have been changed and the application base of the question is very high. So Pooja Chandak, I see your answer there. And the answer is 4 or D. And you can pat yourself. I'll clap for you though. Now look at this. This is another googly and my favorite. Sex ratio refers to the number of females per 1,000 males in the population. And Odisha and Madhya Pradesh have their own sex ratios. All other indicators being equal, how does this affect the HDI of the two states? Any answer? How does it affect the HDI of the two states? Do we teach economics in grade 10? Human Development Index. So equality, no, I will show you the answer. It does not affect the HDI because sex ratio is not used in the calculation of HDI. Yes, so we need to know what are the components of HDI. The student needs to immediately recall the components of HDI and then interpret our question. Assertion reasoning I have done with you. Look at this, there you can give a map from the political science textbook. Which of the following deductions can definitely be made from the map? Argentina is the largest federal country in South America. You can see the 4 options and you may choose to make the correct. Yes, Vandana, that question is gone. We've moved ahead. Which of the following deductions can be made from the map? And the correct answer is B. Germany has states that share power with the center. Why do we choose this over China? Many students may decide to choose China, but why do we choose Germany? because this is a federalism map. And we are focused on federalism, not on China. You can even have this kind of a question from economics. Organized working class owes respect to the first men who planted the standard of labor solidarity on the hostile frontier of the unorganized industry. Analyze the statement to highlight the rights that the organized industry enjoys now due to solidarity shown by labor groups earlier. And it shows 3 marks, which means a minimum of 3 points would be expected. And I have given you 5 points. Any other relevant points would also be allowed. In the marking scheme, you need to show 1 mark to be awarded to 1 point. Now, when we are choosing an appropriate type of question, we also need to look at the appropriate type of marking scheme. So for the time being, I'm going to close the chat box. If you're using a level of evidence, single word or a number, judge, explain. The task type is unconstrained. The question type may be essay, performance, or project. The response may be longer, open-ended. Usually it has 5 marks and the level of response will be an LOR or a level response marking scheme where you would be showing why you are awarding 5 marks and what would you be expecting. Or in an explain or describe, it is semi-constrained, short answer, sentences written by the student lesser than 5 marks. It could be 3 marks or 2 marks. So it is a point-based level of response. And finally, you have describe, state these options, which are very constrained in our questions. They are very short answer questions or objective questions, which need single word responses. Or select from a list, identify the odd one out. Usually a 1 marker question, which is point-based or objective. So when you're making your competency-based questions, you need to keep this also in mind. With this, I'd like to thank Dr. Priyadarshi Nayak for inviting me here today and giving me the opportunity to be very much present and giving all members of the social science fraternity a part of my knowledge and competency-based item writing in social sciences. Thank you, Kshama Swarnakar ma'am, for moderating the session. And thank you to all the participants. I will stop sharing my screen so I can have the chat box open. I am open to questions. I am open to comments and your valuable feedback, which I can take back and learn from all of you. Map pointing, we can do a separate session on. Currently, we need to focus on competency-based item writing, which is the topic for today. So if you have any questions or comments for it, okay,
Yes,
so if you want me to take particular sessions, you may put it in your feedback form once it comes. Probably Dr. Nayak will think about it. Over to you, Kshama ma'am.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. So I would like to ask, like, if you have any doubt or a query, you can ask or raise the hand or put it in the chat box about the questions.
Rutuja, if you are a registered participant for this week with the CED registration link, then you will get a certificate. So you can take the link and register, or in today's feedback form, you may find a link where you may register for the week. Okay. In the feedback form, you can fill that, Preeti.
Whatever the concern you have regarding the certification or a session, you can directly check with CED. Contact number and a WhatsApp number is given to your WhatsApp. So you can ping directly and get the answers, whatever the query you have regarding that. So right now we are keen to get the questions on the topic which we have. Madam has assessed that. So kindly ask the question on that relevant topic questions, please.
Thank you, Harshada, Dr. Harshada. You
So,
may
ma'am,
choose. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I'm not able to see any kind of question or a hand raise. So can I send a feedback form link on the chat box?
Why not, ma'am? Please feel free to do so.
Yeah, thank you. So here's the feedback form and the attendance link is there. And those who have not registered, they can able to get this registration as well as a registration link, because if you click on that, you will get the feedback as well as the registration, those who have not registered. And another information, again I repeat for that is for the session which is missed, and that information is there. Let me also share that information. Yeah, so you are able to see that information is on 16th August. The session was, or the session which was on 16th of August, that was postponed to 26th of August. And Dr. Rita Sonawat's session is scheduled, which was missed. It is going to happen on 30th of August. So kindly note down these two dates and block your timing on your calendar. So if there is no question, so kindly fill the feedback form, mark your attendance, and I really thankful, ma'am, that that it is kind of in a topic which is very important. Why? Because many of the students are basically engaged in science, and social studies is a kind of in a subject become ignorance, right? Because of a might be they are not taking interest or something. But yes, if we teachers used to frame the questions in such a way, then they were able to get attracted or motivated or interested for the topic, for the subjects. If we make it more, you can say, interactive sessions or more interesting session by the teachers. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for understanding. Who is not able to fill the form? You all are not able to fill the form.
I think the link is shut.
No. Let me check it. Just give me a moment.
No, it's open. It's open, ma'am.
It's opened.
Hmm.
Yeah. Because we used to shut the link as the session ends. So might be that is the reason.
No, it's open. I was hoping people would at least write a feedback.
Yes, Maria ma'am, you can just kindly refresh your page and then fill the form.
I would love to hear from participants about today's session. I received no feedback, so maybe you all didn't enjoy it.
No, ma'am, it is there, but now people are assessing themselves that how we were able to moderate it.
Yes, Gayatri ma'am has raised her hand.
Yes, Gayatri ma'am, tell me please.
Okay, ma'am, I'm actually speechless, and I was going on listening to your session. You gave us such a broad, view towards asking questions. Now, for me as a preschool teacher, this would be like a much heavy uh, side of the topic, but then still, I derived my own experience from this, that how we can make learning interesting by thinking of the questions. The most useful thing that came to me was that chart which you displayed, wherein we can combine the two aspects of the questions and create our own questions. So that was the most useful thing I found. As of my level, how am I going to implement at my own level? Thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us such a big insight towards
my pleasure, ma'am.
questions.
Thank you, ma'am. It was my pleasure. But Gayatri, ma'am, I'd like to also suggest, when you are using the question matrix, that chart that you're talking about, You can apply it to preschool very well. You can take
Yes.
Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star as an option and frame questions, or Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, or Jack and Jill,
Yes.
which I showed. You can take all of these and frame your questions from there.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly. That is what I meant to say. The chart was really useful to me. Thank you so much.
There is
My
another
pleasure.
hand raised, that is
Jai
Jai
Devi.
Devi, ma'am. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. Very good
Good evening.
session. Social is a dry subject, but asking higher order thinking questions make children to think differently. Maximum teachers will go with direct question. They give question answers, read and come. These questions will come. When you frame this kind of question, definitely children will start reading. A very good session, ma'am. So many things to take up from this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jai Devi ji.
Yeah, that is the same thing what I said, that it is a kind of a dry subject. The teachers are not that, I'm sorry, students are not that much of interested to understand. Another hand raise, Pooja ma'am. Yeah.
Good evening, ma'am. Good evening, all the dignitaries. It's a great pleasure to have you have a very fruitful session with you all. One query I had with regards to power sharing. Any one of you please guide in. They have given the example with regards to the concurrent list where the special status of the states was being shared in. And now that status has been actually abolished. So now the students are asking that while writing the answer, can we mention that context? Because in textbook, the updated ideas are not mentioned in.
Ma'am, the updated textbook does mention the updated ideas. However, for safety, you may guide your students to use the older pre-mentioned textual data and mention there that from this year, the special status has been removed.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Welcome.
Teacher ma'am. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. I can't see you.
Just a second, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay. Ma'am, session was a very wonderful, and I got a lots of information. I was always trying to join the session, but I was not getting. So first, I would like to thank Social Science Family Group, and of course, ma'am, you. So because of this session, I came to know how to construct the questions, specifically HOTS questions. So one more query I was having. Can I get the information about interdisciplinary project? Can we have that session?
That, of course, you will have to request Dr. Nayak and the CED Foundation. In your attendance form, they may be asking for suggestions. You can keep your suggestions there. The best suggestions, the most wanted suggestions, I'm sure CED Foundation, in association with the Sahoday School Complex, Eastern Odisha, will definitely look into it.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay.
So anyone else have?
There's one more. There's one more. Shraddha Uppal.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Shraddha, ma'am. I'm not able to see you.
Just a second, ma'am. Yeah, we just reached home. I mean,
yes,
while
most of us do reach home by now.
Taking this workshop. So, namaste, ma'am. This is Shraddha. I just wanted to ask, ma'am, like, you have shown that video, Jack and Jill video, right? So, Machli Jal Ki Rani hai. So, can we frame a question, after showing that video, water, water everywhere, not a drop to
But
drink.
not a drop
How
to
can
drink.
how can we relate this statement with the video shown here? So, is it?
Yes, you can, definitely. This video intentionally has been shown with, I particularly picked up this video for the social science fraternity. It relates absolutely to so many things that we teach, so many concepts that we teach in our classrooms.
Ma'am, I teach science. So I think there also it goes,
Yes.
resources.
Yes.
Yeah. So, okay.
You can
it
even
will-
connect renewable and non-renewable resources or resources based on exhaustibility, biotic, abiotic, all of that we can connect to this as a video.
Yeah, ma'am. And it will come under the category of analysis, analyzing.
Analysis, it can come under analysis, evaluate based on how you frame your question. Because water everywhere, not a drop to drink would also be simple comprehension in a geography class 10.
Okay, right, ma'am. Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome.
Wonderful session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else have any questions or queries? They can raise the hand if we have last few minutes with ma'am. We don't want to more like extend the session, but yes, it will be great if you all can able to understand.
Gayatri ma'am has raised her hand again.
I'm not able to. Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know, ma'am, that we have this video aligned in our pedagogy for coming days, coming weeks, wherein the water topic is going to be initiated. So we are going to use the smart class to initiate the topic. So there will be interaction and pre-knowledge from children being acquired, and then how to conserve water, and this is the best way to initiate the topic.
Wonderful. Truly, we are blessed to have experienced teachers like you in our midst.
Though I am in a very small profile, but my experience in that particular circumference is very good. So
that is the biggest thing, experience. Ma'am,
and I enjoy it.
Yes, we have two more hands up, Oppo F11 and Jaidevi ma'am again.
Yeah, I just want to, before giving like thing to say, but I just want to request all the participants, although I have made them enter into the session, but kindly always rename your name before entering with the session, because Oppo, Vivo, all these are not a name of yours. It's a kind of a handset you are using. So it's not look good. Professionally, it not look good. So kindly always rename yourself, and please cross-check double when you are entering into any of the session, not in the CED, but any of the session. Yes, Jaidevi ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. So the video was very effective. So we are thinking of having that during our annual day program. So it will reach many parents. And maximum our school events, we select such theme only as to have it in the sessions. So that's how we also take up the things to reach out many parents. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. If anyone having more and more questions, so they have to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to wind up the session with a note that thank you so much for this wonderful session, so that they can able to reframe the whole curriculum and make it more interactive and interesting as a social study is, because social studies give us a exact idea of our past history and the present of civics as well, and the geography, obviously, because they have to move from the other. So all comprise of the social studies. So thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much for this wonderful session, so that they can able to understand. So thank you, and we will definitely going to pass the message to the Dr. Pridarshi Nayak about the demanding session from you, from the participants. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Pleasure meeting you.
Thank you. So, dear participant, I'm holding the session for a while so that you all can able to fill the feedback form and mark your attendance.
Wishing everyone a very happy Independence Day for tomorrow. Please celebrate the Har Ghar Tiranga campaign as mentioned by our Prime Minister and make the nation proud.
Yes.
Yes, Maria ma'am seems to be raising her hand. Physically, she is raising her hand.
Oh, I'm not able to find.
Okay, I can. 1 minute.
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, actually, this is the first time I'm facing this problem. It is not getting, I cannot fill the form on my end.
Ma'am, you kindly copy the link and paste it in the new browser.
Okay.
Because
Fine.
all the others can fill, so I never think that there is a problem in the link.
No, I don't know, ma'am, but this is the, after in the session, this is the first day I cannot fill the form.
Might be, ma'am, there is a kind of a technical issue at your end. So kindly copy the link and paste it to the new browser.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. Yeah.
Aarti VS, one last hand recognized, if ma'am permits, and then we can leave.
Yeah. Yes, Aarti, ma'am.
Aarti ma'am, you'll need to unmute.
You said to...
Aarti ma'am needs to unmute.
I did that, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. One question to ma'am. It is 6th standard children find it a little difficult to understand the assertion reasoning question. So is there somewhere we can make them go a little bit, take it a little bit more towards the textbook and then bring them out of it, or something we can do like that?
I personally feel we need to train them right from grade 6, and that's what we do in our school, grade 6 to 10. We follow the CBSE SQP to the T, and all kinds of questions are done in the class with the students. So everyone in school is aware, though in grades 6, 7, and 8, we lower the competency level of the questions to an extent, not completely. And assertion and reasoning is also asked in that. So,
Yes, no,
students have to be trained.
We've already started training them, but they still somewhere, find it confusing, and they say, ma'am, you say whether this is right, that is right, then explain. Then, so when we ask them to do that, suddenly they get somewhere lost, and I saw it with them, and I thought if there's some way where we could make it a little bit, more easy to understand. That is my only question here right now, ma'am.
Yes. You can explain to them why. With every assertion and reasoning, your marking scheme should explain why is it a particular answer. If you're able to explain why is it a particular answer, your students will be well trained on the concept.
Thank you, ma'am. And this is to Samita, ma'am. Ma'am, I'm not able to fill the form completely because it is asking for payment.
Ma'am, might be you have not paid it. If it is already paid, there is an option as of a payment is there. Then you have to mark it, and then if you have not done that, then you don't have to.
I have already paid for 10 hours, but I do not know if my 10 hours is completed. That is my confusion over here.
Ma'am, you have paid the 10 hours, then obviously it is completed because it is 5 into 5. That is 2 part is completed. This is the 3rd part.
Now again, I have to pay.
Yes.
But when I, okay, ma'am, fine.
Ma'am, whatever the regarding form, payment and everything, kindly get back to the CED contact number. I don't have that much of knowledge. So kindly go to that contact number and you are able to get the proper resolution.
Yes, because we are not able to come for that. That is the only thing I have. Otherwise, I have no other issue, ma'am. All these days I was filling it properly. So today when I said I don't want the certificate, but then it says pay again. So
okay, whatever the concern is, kindly do cross check with the CED number, please.
Okay, ma'am, I'll do that, ma'am. Thank you.
Ma'am, thank you so much for this session, and I would like to close the session. Gayatri ma'am, do you have any concern regarding the topic, or you want to ask something related to payment or a link? Okay.
Ma'am, just one last thing I would like to share, since someone said that for lower classes how to inculcate interest. Now, I remember since my childhood, if I read Amar Chitra Katha, it was a very supportive factor towards my interest in social studies. So it really is helpful. The Amar Chitra Katha series.
Yes, ma'am, it is very helpful. With that, we also have other comic books now available at the CBSE. So graphic novels, comic books, all of that is available.
Someone, Oppo F11 is there. Kindly tell me your name and ask the question, please.
Hello, good evening, ma'am. This is Shraddha Dhere. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, ma'am. I'm from Kolhapur from RSMS Global. I have paid the fees, ma'am. Just a little query regarding it. There is a space provided to write the answer. So I'm a bit confused what is to be written because the receipt has to be shared on the given WhatsApp number. And that is a required question.
I already mentioned that, ma'am, whatever the concern you have regarding anything, I don't have an idea about it. So kindly check with CED number.
But ma'am,
CED number is in the chat box.
Yes, ma'am. But it is connected with the attendance link, so I have just raised the question.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you, ma'am. I think there is no more as such the question regarding the topic. And thank you so much with your wonderful session and more interactive ones. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Happy Independence Day to one and all once again.
Same to you, ma'am.
Thank you.